This is Lon Winters with Graphic Elephants.
Dave Garrick with Atlas Screen Supply.
This is David Gross with Condi Systems.
Jimmy Lamb with Sawgrass.
And you are listening to the Two Regular Guys
Podcast.
Hosted by Aaron Montgomery
and Terry Combs.
Ad lib here.
All right. Well, welcome to the show, everyone. It is Friday, September 7th, 2018. I'm Terry Combs with Equipment Zone. You can also find me at terrycombs.com.
And I'm Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me at aaronmontgomery.info. Today, we're going to be talking with Patrick Bardsley with Spectrum Designs, who's been on the show before back in 2015, actually. And we're going to check in with them and see how things are going. It sounds like they're growing and things are going really, really well over there. So we're excited to hear all about that. And most of you know that I have a 19-year-old son who has autism. So this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I told Terry last week that I'll try to keep the tears from overcoming me. I get a little emotional with this stuff because I just think it's so amazing what people are doing to stand up and help, these wonderful kids who are so talented and kids, adults, the whole spectrum there, Terry. So real quick, Terry, I wanted to go back to the intro there where we had Dave say ad lib here. Why does that say that on our show outline too? The whole thing just says ad lib here.
Because that's who we are, Aaron.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's funny. Patrick and Tim over at Spectrum were commenting about the fact that they were on the show, or Patrick was on the show 3 years ago, and how different the show is. And Aaron, I had somebody in one of the screen printing classes I did recently, and at lunchtime they went and started listening to the show, and they said they listened to show number one. I'm like, oh gosh, don't start at show number one.
Really bad.
started show number 53 into our next year.
yeah. Because I think we're north of 260 now, Terry. So we try to get better, a little bit better each time. So so yes, Don't start at show number one. All right, but. Well, Terry, a couple quick news items before we dive in here. I wanted to share, I got an email from Screen Printing Magazine, and they have just announced this is their first annual Rising Star Awards, which will honor 6 young people whose accomplishments in specialty printings have made an indelible impression. The award is open to individuals under the age of 35 who are employed in specialty printing businesses. So third-party nominations will be accepted through the end of October 31st, and we'll have a link to that. So that sounds like a pretty cool thing that they've got going on.
That's very cool. Yeah, I could think of a couple of people right now that would fit to that category. That's awesome. So
nice. Well, you can't nominate me, Terry. I just miss. I'll nominate you though. Okay.
Okay, that'd be great. I'll be like Harry Potter. He's not old enough to be in the
What about you, Terry? What is going on in your world?
Yeah, just a quick shout out to Jackie and Jordan over at the Awesome Company in Columbus, Ohio. They recently attended my screen printing class in Chicago, and I discovered that Jackie has a very similar story to the folks at Spectrum Design, creating a business so that her autistic son could have a place to work, and then so they work with a lot of special needs employees as well. And so I think I spoke to them about this already, and I think we should have them on the show, and maybe December when we have our next opening, and looking forward to having them on the show. And hopefully they're listening today. I sent them a reminder to make sure they tuned in.
All right, sounds good. Were they the ones that started at show number one?
No.
Oh, okay.
it was actually somebody else who also does a podcast, and I could see the disappointment in his eyes.
All right. Well, that is that's good. Yes, if they do a podcast, maybe they understand the trouble that it can be at times. So anyhow,
right. We had a good laugh about it, actually. So.
Very nice. Well, Christine Shreve is checking in. There we go. Clicked on the wrong one there. And good morning, Christine. And Dick Ross is checking in as well. So thank you guys for joining us live this morning. And Terry, I do want to remind everybody to stay tuned to the very end of the show for It's 5 Things. Eric Campbell gives us 5 reasons to define your company's greater purpose. I think that matches nicely with what we're talking about today, Terry. And Eric's going to try to actually come on and bring that to us live. Otherwise, you get me reading it instead. So
And
either way, it's going to be good.
It'll have much more flair if Eric does it, I think.
True.
Hey, we appreciate everybody listening in, and we are very happy to have been bringing you this show since February 2013. Don't go listen to that show. This is our sixth season, and always trying to improve. We always try to avoid the rants lecturing. Easy for me to say, right? Hey, we'd love for you guys to visit our website. It's 2 regularguys.com. Check out the show notes from all of our previous podcasts and anything that our guests today mentioned, any links or anything like that, it'll be up on our website. We're always looking for show suggestions, and you can reach out to us through our Contact Us page or through social media, and you can find us all over social media at 2 regular guys. And if you're watching this live video, please give us your comments, your questions, and we'd love to have you participate in the show today.
Absolutely. And just so everybody knows, if you are listening in live on Facebook right now, the way that Facebook kind of makes things work through, we use an awesome service called BeLive.tv. And unfortunately with Facebook, though, we can only see the comments that are coming directly from our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/2regularguys. So if you're catching this on a share or some other place on Facebook and you're trying to comment, and you're like going, hey, why aren't these guys responding to me? That's the reason why. So just have to go directly over to us. So that way, I've been yelled at before for that. So I just wanted to point that out to everybody.
Good point. All right. Well, Aaron, before we go further on, let's hear a word from our sponsor, SGIA, about the upcoming SGIA Expo.
Hi, this is SGIA's Dan Marks, inviting you to attend the SGI Expo in Las Vegas this October. We're going to show you what's on the horizon, with more than 500 exhibitors showing the latest in dye sub, screen, embroidery, DTG, and more. We have 72 educational sessions, including a garment decoration track, and a special luncheon just for garment decorators. Registration is free through September 19th. Learn more at sgia.org/expo2rg.
Fantastic. And if you have never attended the SGIA Expo, I certainly encourage you to do that. And everybody needs to see it at least once. It's a really tremendous show, and certainly the largest garment printing and all types of printing show in North America. So going out to Vegas and walk the show, and then try your luck at the tables.
Oh boy. Yeah, I'm trying to put money away now because I know I'll leave plenty of it there in Vegas, but it will be very, very fun. So very excited about that event coming up in October. I can't believe it's right around the corner, Terry. Actually, it's freaking me out, really.
I tell you, I can't believe it's September. So, because it's still 105 here, but summer's almost over.
Nice. All right, Terry. Well, let's get into this. We're going to bring Patrick in. Tim is still hiding from us behind a green screen right now, so I will see if we can get that. We might try to bring him in anyhow and see if we can at least hear him. But here we go. We've got Patrick with us, Terry. So, Terry, could you introduce Patrick for us?
Absolutely. Patrick is the co-founder and CEO of Spectrum Designs Foundation. It's a nonprofit that employs teens and young adults with disabilities in a custom apparel shop. Patrick has appeared on the show before, back in 2015. Since then, Spectrum has grown to a multi-million-dollar business, and they've purchased, renovated, and moved into a new 7,500 square foot facility in Port Washington, New York. So welcome into the show, Patrick.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it very much.
Well, Patrick, as we mentioned at the start of the show, and we got to talk to you here before we started today, it's been since 2015 that we had a chance to talk to you. But for those of the folks that are listening in today that haven't heard the history, can you kind of just start us off with a quick history of what Spectrum Designs is all about and your mission, et cetera?
Absolutely. Yeah, so we were founded in 2011 in a backyard barn, classic American story, with a secondhand DTG. It was from Coldesi, Coleman and Company machine, on a table with 2 heat presses and a little Wagner spray gun, and we just, we said, look, what if we can just make shirts for the autism community? We know they do a lot of walks, there's a lot of benefits. Maybe they would order from us, and of course with the digital printing, you could do full colors, pictures of people and things like that. So it started off like that, and then people started getting more interested in saying, well, what about my moving company? What about the deli? What about, if it was a nephew or someone connected to those with autism? It was myself and 2 co-founders who both have children with autism, so we used them as our sort of guinea pigs in the print. This is I guess a vocation that has lots of steps that can be broken down into easily followable and repetitious steps. So you start with a blank product, you execute X, Y, and Z, and you end up with a complete concrete finished product, as you all know. So that's very inherently sort of satisfying and reinforcing to everyone, and particularly those with disabilities who like to know when things are beginning and ending and have some concrete structure. So we just grew and grew, and we were very lucky to have something like 80% year-on-year growth for the next sort of 3 or 4 years. We went into screen printing, and we just said to ourselves, like, we need to expand more and more. We went into automatic 2-3 years ago with 1 automatic from M&R and a little Diamondback that fit in our shop. And then we outgrew that space. So in February of this year, we moved into an 8,000 square foot place, and now we have 2 automatics, 2 dryers, embroidery, digital printing. So we're much more set up than we've ever been. Of course, we're always learning, and that's why we appreciate opportunity to talk to you guys and industry people like yourselves, because it's such a fascinating and exciting industry to be in, because it's constantly moving forward, and you have to,
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious how you decided the apparel industry, and along those lines, how's business?
Business is good, thank you. Yeah, we're doing okay. It was a strange start to the year in the Northeast because we had snow up until like April, and I think have spoken to other people in the industry, they were saying, and the sales reps were like, yeah, a lot of people had a weird first quarter, I don't know how it was in different parts of the country, but I think the bad weather really affects events, and things that you're normally printing for, they get cancelled or they get called off, or they say, what, forget it, we're not doing it. But it's picked up. We've all fit into this new space pretty well. Of course, it's changed. The layout's changed tons of times. Where tables go, where things, everyone knows that. But what I will say in terms of the apparel industry is, based on what we've seen, it's pretty recession-proof, and I always joke that America loves T-shirts, and you constantly need new ones and new events and new things. Exactly. So we feel like we stumbled upon a pretty wonderful industry. And what I'll say too is about the industry is that it's such a, from my experience anyway, such a warm industry in terms of people wanting to help each other. Yes, everyone's kind of in competition, but there's so much out there, and people want to help each other and want to learn, and particularly in the beginning days and going to trade shows and talking to other printers, we just felt very blessed that so many good people were out there to help us and to help us learn, because it's a steep learning curve, especially with DTG. Suddenly you lose blue ink, suddenly it's just you're getting these weird colors and you're like, what's going on? We've been very lucky.
Nice. Well, that's really cool, and we're glad to hear that business is going well. Terry, just so you know, snow is actually this white stuff that's really cold.
I've seen it on TV. I've seen it on TV. Right. It's a Wonderful Life, but
yeah.
Terry normally brings us his weather report during the wintertime from Scottsdale, Arizona, but we don't hear as much from him in the summer.
Well, because we're still in Uber summer. In Phoenix, we have summer, we have Uber summer, then we have summer. So,
all right, Patrick. Well, so you mentioned to us that, and seen through your website and stuff like that, you've expanded into promotional products a little bit. How's that affected your business? What's that all about?
Well, yeah, we initially people would call us, and someone would have their logo, you're doing T-shirts for them, and they're a moving company or whatever, and they're like, well, I want to order mugs, and I want nice timing, and pens, and whatever else, and non-apparel goods, and we would always just like, well, we don't do that. And they're like, well, you have our logo, you have everything, can you not? And we're like, well, we're not able to do it right now. And so then we initially said no, and then we said, oh, we actually got approached by a sort of middleman company, Minuteman Press, who were just like, well, we'll work together. But then we found that it was working fine, but our customers were definitely used to very quick turnaround, very quick response times, and sometimes things would having to go through them to then go to the supplier became, obviously a sort of bottleneck. Yeah. So Tim, our COO, was just like, I think in January of last year, said, look, let's explore it. Let's see if we can become an ASI member. And that was the one we knew. That was the big one, And unfortunately, ASI at the moment, or at the time, still doesn't allow nonprofits into their membership. So that was a bit of a setback. But we said to ourselves, okay, let's not give up. Let's look up. So we found Sage and PPAI, and they were like, well, we don't have any other nonprofits, but there's nothing that says you. So hey, why not? So we became the first nonprofit member of PPAI and Sage in January of last year, and it's been incredible. The first year, Tim was sort of convincing me, going, look, they're going to do a website for us. It's going to be $400. I'm like, okay, but you better make sure it's worth it. And the membership's 200 and something, whatever it was. I'm like, you better make sure. Within like the first order, it was like worth it. And like then it just, so it now accounts to, I think, probably about 10%, maybe 20% of our annual sales, which, and the nice thing is people will shop around, of course, but essentially the pricing is pretty much the same for everything. And if you have their artwork and all that stuff, and they want to support the nonprofit and feel like their money's going into supporting our mission here, though we're not producing the items, the proceeds are obviously going back in as a 501c3, so everyone kind of feels pretty good about it. And we're very transparent. We don't mislead anyone. We say, look, we can't print it here, but we can get it done for you, and it will get drop shipped directly, or so it's been and Tim won a Rising Star Award this year too, so with PPAI, so national. So it's been a pretty exciting ride, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, before we went on the air, we were chatting with Tim a little bit, and he was pointing out that your roles have reversed. In high school, he was the class president and you were the vice president. Is that the way it was?
Exactly. In Britain, we call it head boy and deputy head boy. So I was his deputy and he was head boy, but yeah, he was the president. We kind of reverse roles, but I think it's great working with your best friend, and honestly, he has so many strengths that I don't have, and I think it's important to recognize the things you're good at and things you're not good at. And he has a lot of things I'm not good at. So it was a no-brainer when he when he was available to come over and move to the States. I was like, you know what, you can do all that stuff that I don't know how to do, but I know it needs to get done by someone,
That's certainly an important part of business, is knowing your strengths and your weaknesses. And let's talk a little bit about the community, though. So how has the community responded to your story and your product line, and what's really driven the growth of Spectrum?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, I'm going to sound a little cheesy here, but I think America loves an underdog story, and I think, this kind of, these guys are potentially underestimated and undervalued in a lot of instances. And so to see them being productive and being members of contributing is the most important word, contributing members of society, kind of flips the lens a little bit. And so what that's meant is that people reach out to us and say, look, I need my pricing to be correct. I need my quality to be good. I need my timing to be good. But if you can do all that, I'm going to give you the business because I want to feel good about my purchase and I want to support this cause. And that's been really interesting for us. And I think the other thing that I like to kind of realize is it's not just an emotional thing. Like, Aaron, I know you're emotionally connected to this, and I obviously am. But for people who aren't, there's an economic argument to be made for something like this. You're taking people who otherwise be collecting Social Security and be totally dependent on the state or the federal government, and now you're creating taxpayers. You're adding to the economy, and you're diminishing what was once required. And then where are they spending their salaries and their paychecks? But back in the local community, in the movie theater, in the delis, in the in the local stores. So it's cyclical in that sense and circular. And so I think in general, no matter in a very divisive time, in not just in America but in Europe as well, this is something I think people can agree on, that this kind of social enterprise model, whether it be with apparel or other industries, just kind of makes sense, so the reaction's been really, really heartening, I must say.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like you said, I have that emotional connection. And so, yeah, it would be a no-brainer for me as a business to go, yes, this is where I want to spend my dollars. But, there's other situations where maybe that I don't have that connection there, but to be able to have that same, thought process about that cyclical version of it. Every single young person or person in general that I've ever met with autism, they have all the same wants, desires, needs as we do, to feel part of a community, to be able to support themselves, to do all those things. My son's 19 right now, and he got his college ID recently, and to have that is like a super proud moment for him. He just graduated high school, and it was a massive undertaking for everybody, the entire family. I think we had 50 people there from all over the country, and it was really cool. So I love that your community is supporting it, and our community industry in general is supportive of it. So 100%. Speaking of supporting, Patrick, I want to talk a little bit, you mentioned you guys are a nonprofit. So the fundraising dollars, talk to us a little bit about that. How does that help you operate? What does that do for your business?
So initially, of course, when we first started out, grants and fundraisers were a huge part of what we were doing. It meant that we didn't have to finance equipment. It meant that we could invest in the best possible equipment based on not just the industry, but also the needs of our employees and participants. Good tech support, all that stuff. Safety is a huge thing of our concern. But we've been very lucky in that the strength of the model now in 2018 is that we're not really dependent on the fundraised dollars. We're able to pay our mortgage, pay the lights, keep the lights on, and all the supplies and everything with sales, which is what our goal was all along. So now we have fundraised, but really the money is used to grow and expand our mission. We're also trying to document the kind of secret sauce and the cookbook, if you will, so that we can share this with other industries, with other print shops, with other people who want to potentially employ people with disabilities or start something like this, like the lady you mentioned at the start of the show, Terry. I think there's a lot to be said for sharing. We're a drop in the ocean. They anticipate that in the next decade, 500,000 adults with autism will graduate high school and turn 21 and go into the workforce. And that's a workforce where right now their employment rate is 10 to 20%. So when you've got 80% of those 500,000 people unemployed, that's a societal thing that we all need to kind of think about. And because eventually it's gonna, it matters, and it's going to be a cost. So we're hoping that this model can be shared to be in other parts of the country, other parts of the world. Of course, of being from the UK, I would love to have it in the UK one day, and I know Britain likes t-shirts too. There's a lot to be said for knowledge sharing. I don't want to look back and say, okay, we had one print shop and that's great. And I think I want to share with the industry that shared with us so much in the early days, and so we like to be a resource for that.
Well, Patrick, speaking of the industry sharing, you mentioned being the first nonprofit with PPAI. Talk to us a little bit about how the industry has helped a small nonprofit grow at this really incredible rate.
Yeah, I mean, it started, I think it started with YouTube. I did read a book, The T-Shirt Revolution. But, you go to ISF, you go to shows, you go to trade shows, you meet people, you attend the classes, all the presenters, give you their email and say, hey, I've got my own shop, and I got 10,000 square feet or 40,000 square feet, and but send me an email and I'll get back to you. And so the industry has been absolutely wonderful. Everyone we met, the sales reps from our suppliers want to be resources and help us, and the magazines, all the publications out there, you guys, podcasts like this, I could go on. Of course, YouTube videos, information sharing. It really has been an unbelievable experience for us to just, and still, we still go on t-shirt forums, we still go on and send Facebook groups and send emails. Hey, I'm having this problem. Here's a picture of my shirt, and this is the discoloration, and what does everyone think? And people have been just so wonderful to kind of guide us and say, oh, try this, try that. No one's kind of like, well, I know how to fix it, but I'm not going to tell you. It's it really is. I can't speak highly enough about how the industry has helped us, particularly in the beginning, but still to this day, every day, because things are constantly changing and evolving, and customers are expecting, I guess because of things like Amazon and everything, customers are expecting things in just a very quick time, and expecting miracles, and that's, you got to keep up with that kind of thing. So I think the industry in general has been absolutely tremendous, a big help to us.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. That's great to hear. I think our industry in general is that way across the board. Obviously, with this kind of a cause, it makes it even easier for people to get behind. But in the nearly 20 years I've been doing this, I've very rarely run across that thing that you mentioned, where I know how to do it, but I'm not going to share it with you. That just doesn't really happen, unfortunately.
I almost feel like every technician that's come to fix a machine has gone, hey, here's my personal cell phone number. Like, give me a text if you've got an issue, and I'll send me a picture, whatever. They're not billing you. They're not working on the clock. They're just like, I'll help you out. And I think I think they would do that for anyone. I agree the cause helps, but I think the nature of the people that are drawn to this industry tend to be people that want to that aren't that kind of cutthroat, like especially those who work, with the boots on the ground kind of people,
Totally. Yeah. In fact, Christine Shreve shared, I think that one of the best things about the industry is how willing people are to help and share knowledge. And 100% agree. I mean, honestly, that's how we've built this podcast. We've been blessed with tons of great people that have great information to share. And, the pay for coming on this podcast, Patrick, is not nearly what you thought it was going to be. Just FYI for you right now. But all right. Patrick, tell us a little bit about, you've grown, obviously, as we've talked about. How many people do you guys employ, and how many of those folks are on the autism spectrum?
So we just hit 37 employees, and 22 of them are adults with disabilities. So working variety of full and part-time. Obviously, not everyone can do a 40-hour, 35-hour work week, but that's been a big growth for us. So that's how many we have, and of course there are many more that we would like to help, but one step at a time, I suppose. But that's where we're at.
Well, Patrick, how does working with the 22 people that are on the autism spectrum, how does that change the workplace?
I mean, I'm obviously a big kind of believer in we have a unified workplace. So it's integrated, disabled, non-disabled, working side by side. I think there's no such thing as a bad day. You could have a day that, 150 shirts are printed wrong on the wrong side, or something gets burnt, or dye migration or whatever. But then that afternoon, someone makes a major breakthrough that, we've been working on spotting quality control and a pinhole or ghosting for 6 months, and they make a breakthrough, and the whole day is framed in a different way. So I think having a workforce that is diverse in that way makes every day different, and makes there's just major milestones happening all the time. And honestly, the guys are just it's so heartening to be around people who just, they want to work. They're not looking at the clock and going, when's my break? If anything, they're kind of like, we have to encourage people to take breaks, because they're just like, no, I'm here to work. I'm not here to socialize, so although we have to kind of encourage the socialization. So I love it. It's humbling, to gives me a reason to get out of bed in the morning, and jump out of bed in the morning, so I wouldn't change it for the world.
Nice. So Patrick, maybe give us an example of how, when somebody with disabilities reacted differently to something in a situation, and maybe how that helped the organization.
Yeah, so there's a great story of it was about a year ago. We were in our old place, and it was I think a Thursday afternoon, and we were printing. We have the national walk contract for Autism Speaks, so they had a walk in Pennsylvania, or I think maybe it was Philadelphia on the Saturday. So it's a Thursday. We're rushing to make you get out on our little machine with our Vaztec electric dryer. We're doing, whatever it was, I don't know, 600 an hour or something, as fast as we can go. And it's 4:30, UPS guy's about to pull up, and we've got maybe 100 or so left. We can't risk losing a shirt. They have to ship because they have to get to Philadelphia on Friday morning. The walk is on Saturday. The world will end if they're not there, and the power cuts out, right? So the power cuts out. We're just like, oh, what are we going to do? It cuts out. Everyone's looking around. I'm like, this can't be happening. This can't be happening right now. And what no one else is thinking about, except for one of our employees with disabilities, is the 20 or so shirts that are underneath the electric dryer conveyor belt stopped and are just getting sizzled, right? So like he manually runs up the machine, cranks manually pulls the conveyor belt so all these shirts come flying out, steaming, and then the power comes back on. But like they would have just burnt to a crisp. And so that's where I think it was an amazing story, is everyone else, including me, was going, what are we going to do? Did you see that? Can you believe it? Being kind of social about it, reacting emotionally, not thinking, wait a minute, there's a bunch of shirts getting burnt right now because the electric dryers don't, there's still 800 degrees, so you guys know. So that's like an example of when a different set of eyes really made a big difference, because we didn't have time to replace those 20 shirts that would have been burnt to a crisp. I remember just being like, wow, and that was a year ago, and we've been doing it for 6 years at that point, and I still was like, yeah, still learning, I'm still learning every day.
Nice.
So yeah.
Patrick, I wanted to ask a question that came in through our chat here, and I'll pop it up there for you. Are there plans to promote the youth to management and eventual leaderships at the foundation? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, we recently, that's a great question. We just brought in different levels, so we're constantly revising our hierarchy. So we have an entry level, a production assistant, then we have what's called a senior production assistant, then a lead production assistant. So we have those 3 levels at the kind of entry level, then we go to specialist and things like that. So yeah, we're always looking to promote from within. We base it on experience, on skill set, on loyalty, and time with the company. So yeah, it's certainly the goal. We say teens and young adults, but basically now there's adults, who we're not a program in that sense. We don't end at a certain age. My hope, and I joke all the time, is that I want to retire at the same time as the guys that started with us, who are, going to be 60 something. So yeah, who knows what the future will bring, but definitely there's a desire to promote from within and encourage people to be the best that they can be, for sure. It's a good question.
Absolutely. That was a great question. So Patrick, with a shop that employs a special needs staff, do you ever run into a situation where a customer is concerned about the quality of the work?
Yeah, that happened a lot in the beginning, and still does. I think people think of they hear the word charity or nonprofit, they hear special needs or disability, and I think they kind of go, well, I'm going to be paying more, right? I'm going to be paying more because I'm supporting this charity, or and then I'm a little nervous that things might not be straight or crooked, or as you said, or it's going to take a lot longer. So we have to challenge those misconceptions. What's helped is being able to secure some larger, more sort of corporate familiar clients. I'm not a big name dropper, but let's say like an Uber. We started working with Uber, doing backpacks and embroidery for them. So when you can point to that, you can then kind of go, well, hey, Mr. Deli up the street, it's working for Uber. So if you could give us a chance, we would love to, we'd love you to trust these guys. And so that's just, we understand it. And I think what's nice is we have the opportunity to challenge those misconceptions. And then once you have a product that is beautiful and is delivered on time and is delivered at the right price, you can, that stands as a kind of symbol of the capabilities of people with disabilities for years to come. That's the beauty of our industry, I suppose, is you have repeat impressions and repeat chances to tell the same story of where a product came from. And so we have that opportunity with everything we do, and I use that to kind of encourage our entire staff and our entire team, saying like, in terms of quality control, in terms of that is we can't let ourselves down. You know, we're already kind of having to get over that extra hurdle because of what we do. So, you know, be extra diligent, work hard, because we can't let each other down, you know, and that's really important.
That's awesome. That's amazing. So real quick, I had another question from the chat here, and I just, because one of the reasons I'm stalling to see if Tim will pop back up in here before we ask the next question about him.
He gave up.
I think his his bandwidth is, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, he's like, I can see him through the window, and he's like,
He pops in every once in a while, and I feel bad because I'm like, oh crap, we get him on right now. But anyways, so Dick Ross had asked here and pop this up real quick. He says, how can I get more info on starting a nonprofit? He says, I started screen printing because I'm legally blind and had to find a source of income after leaving my previous job. I mean, how did you guys get started, Patrick? What were some of the resources that you used to kind of get your nonprofit set up?
I think we had we knew someone who was an attorney who'd done that before. I think it's a good idea to contact an attorney or someone who knows about setting up and, you know, doing bylaws and all that stuff. There's tons of online resources depending on what state you're in. I think there are different state guidelines. I mean, there's obviously federal ones too. I'd be happy to share my email and share what I know with your listener as well. So, you know, yeah, I think there are a lot of resources, but my first thing would be to see if you can find an attorney or someone you know, or a friend who knows someone to talk to, because there is some paperwork stuff you have to do, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, we appreciate you offering up your information, and we'll get that connected there. But all right, let's talk about Tim here. You mentioned him previously, your COO and best friend, and he recently won the National Rising Star Award for the promotional products industry. How does he fit? How does that help your business?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of alluded to it earlier. He's got so many skills that are, you know, he's a bit of a nerd, and he's got tons of skills that basically, you know, I'm like, look, I need to figure out what we did in sales and embroidery, but only on polyester, and he'll just be like, blah, Excel, blah, and like figure it out, you know. But I think the biggest thing about Tim is that he's just driven by a desire to be useful and help, and not necessarily motivated by money. And I think, you know, in terms of his sales, he loves to sell. He loves to give good customer service, but it's not just because of the dollar signs. It's because he knows what that means for our population, and that's really what drives him. Is if he gets a large order, 1,000-piece order, whatever, he goes in his head, okay, that's X amount of dollars, but that's also 100+ hours of work or whatever it is for people with disabilities who otherwise wouldn't have it. And so when you have people like that who are motivated in that way, it just helps you so much. I'll never forget, on our grand opening, we were here and everyone was around. You know, we had all the office open, and people are drinking champagne and and celebrating, and he's like, I could see him like on his phone, on his computer, like getting back to customers and like replying to people and going, okay, and moving things around and trying to figure out how to make someone who's got an event on the weekend happy, and best represent our workforce, you know. So he's just indispensable in that sense. He really is.
Fantastic. So Patrick, what's the future for Spectrum? What's around the corner for you?
Well, you know, just when I thought I could, you know, we've been in here 6 months, I thought, you know, I'll enjoy the smell of fresh carpet in this building. I've been approached, and we've been approached by a group of families in a neighboring county, in Westchester County, who really want to replicate and put this in their town or their county. We had a very encouraging meeting last night, actually, after work, with them. So when they first approached me, I thought it was just going to be a kind of, well, here, you know, here's all I know, go ahead and do it. And they were like, no, we want you guys to be doing it. You know what to do. Why reinvent the wheel? Why not take your 7 years of experience and just do it again? So I'm terrified. I never, I feel out of my depth and out of my element. But I think we have the right people around us. We have, as I mentioned, and we all talk, we have a great industry of people who've done this before. Perhaps not with people with disabilities, but they've certainly had multiple print shops and multiple locations. The nice thing is the industry is pretty pretty future proof in that, you can drop ship. There's warehouses all over the country. Our software is cloud based. Our artwork is stored network attached storage, so you could attach it from anywhere. So I think it's possible. So I think the next step is probably going to be another location. I would imagine in the next year or so. So that's exciting, scary, but it's certainly. And then outside of that replication is really doing some work in creating the cookbook, and what is it that makes this tick, because it's not just printing t-shirts, there is other elements of it that matter. It's understanding your industry, it's having the right connections in the industry, it's knowing who to call when things go wrong, when you've got a special request from the customer that you're not sure on, and you've got a sales rep or you've got a resource that can go, oh, here's where to get that, and here's how you do it, and here's the inks you need, and there's so much that changes that we really love that the industry doesn't sit still, and that there are shows like this, and that there are just tons and tons of resources that constantly being updated that you can access. So yes, I'm nervous, but at the same time I'm confident because we have a really, really supportive industry and group of people behind us.
Cool. So that's fantastic. So Patrick, real quick, tell us a little bit about I was checking out the website and stuff, and saw something about Spectrum Suds and Spectrum Bake. Can you give us a little?
Yeah. So we realized that the apparel industry wasn't necessarily for everyone, and the noise, and we wanted to kind of branch out in some similar like businesses. So when Spectrum Bakes is it's basically a granola, sort of gourmet granola bars and bites and nice things. We realized that a recipe and cooking is a lot like printing a shirt, in terms of you have to have certain things, and you have to have certain temperatures, and you have to have certain ingredients, and there's a very clear beginning, middle, and end. And so we kind of stumbled upon that. So we basically started producing that, and then at a different location, of course. And then we have a laundry business too called Spectrum Suds, which is a boutique laundry business that does basically local pickup and drop-offs. We have I think 4 washers, 4 dryers, so small, but we have 22 weekly customers that are using us. I'm a customer. Tim's actually a customer as well. We live in apartments, so we don't have laundry, and they're able to steam our shirts and everything. So they're 2 businesses, and laundry in the same way is you have to sort the clothes. You have to make sure that whites go with whites, colors go with colors. You put them in the machine, you wash them, you dry them, and again, it's very clear beginning, middle, and end, and also not necessarily customer facing. So when you think about autism, one of the things is an impairment or maybe a delay in social patterns of behavior, things like that. So we realized that perhaps being in a situation in a retail store where you have to deal with people asking questions of where things are and things like that wasn't necessarily the best bet for a lot of our people. So if you think about the apparel industry, especially the production side, baking in a kitchen and doing laundry, those are all things that aren't really customer facing, but are services that can't be totally automated, and can't be sent overseas necessarily, particularly not laundry and baking. So, and in the apparel industry too, especially with the turnaround times people want, it's hard to compete sometimes with overseas pricing, but when people need things quickly, or when, when their turnaround time isn't that, or they want things local or whatever, or they want to see and feel and touch products, or just come in and sit down and design, those are things that can't be sent elsewhere. So, we feel like those 3 industries have been smart choices. The other 2 are, and what's nice is the apparel industry, the apparel business is now kind of feeding work to particularly the Spectrum Bakes, because someone comes in and they says, hey, I'm planning a wedding and I want these tote bags, or I have a bar mitzvah or a sweet 16, and we're able to kind of go, hey, do you want to try some delicious granola? Maybe you could put that on the tables, and we kind of, it's baked by people with disabilities. It's the same mission, same cause, and so we're seeing how they're going, but it's been an exciting few months. So plenty on our plate here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you guys are busy. Well, tell Tim that we're gonna have him back here in the not too distant future if we can, and we're gonna have just a whole show with him. And you're not allowed, Patrick. I'm sorry.
That's fine. He's much more entertaining.
Oh well, you guys are both amazing and awesome. And so, Patrick, tell us where people can find out more, where people can reach out to you, and how we can help make a difference in what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so spectrumdesigns.org is the website. My email is my name, Patrick at spectrumdesigns.org. Go on our website. There's links at the top to Spectrum. Someone's saying they like the dark chocolate granola bites. Thanks, Christine. There's along the top of our website, you can click and you can actually transition between the 3 baked suds and designs. We really, as a nonprofit, we don't have a huge marketing budget, so being on things like this, talking to people, and word of mouth is a really big help for us. So really appreciate the opportunity to share the word of Spectrum Designs, and I thank you guys for what you do and giving us this opportunity, and all your listeners and viewers.
Well, thank you so much, Patrick, and keep up the good work, and we'll try to check in a little more than every 3 years. I think that's too long.
Yeah, I know. We need to,
Time flies when you're having fun, but
it does.
When you have your 4th or 5th location in 6 months, we'll have you back to tell us all about it.
Absolutely. Maybe I'll have gray hair by then.
Yeah, Terry and I just get rid of it quicker. So, all right, Patrick. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Wow, what a great show, Aaron. What a great story.
I could see the look on your face a little bit when he said suds was about laundry, though. I could tell you were a little disappointed.
I was waiting for microbrew, man. I was going to do everything I could to support them.
Well, sounds good. All right, Terry. Well, that was awesome. We'll get some links and stuff up in the show notes to where you can go check those guys out. And yes, I agree with Christine. I'm gonna have to go. Hopefully, they ship too. Maybe they'll ship us some dark chocolate granola bites.
We'll have to check that out for sure.
Patrick's give us a thumbs up if you guys ship it. Yep, he's shaking his head down in the lobby there. So
fantastic. Well, Aaron,
for stop.
Before we go any further, let's hear a word from our sponsor, Equipment Zone.
Of course, I should be ready for that.
Our show today is sponsored by Equipment Zone. Go to equipmentzone.com for the Epson F2000 direct-to-garment printer. Equipment Zone is the only Epson reseller who sends a technician to every customer location for training. This is an absolutely free visit to your location. Equipment Zone is also the manufacturer of the #1 pre-treat machine in the industry, the Speed Treater TX. With no compressor and no special tanks, the Speed Treater TX is the easiest and most consistent pre-treat machine available worldwide. Go to equipmentzone.com for the Epson F2000, the Speed Treater TX, and for all your DTG inks and supplies. That's equipmentzone.com. That's equipmentzone.com. All right. Well, thanks to Equipment Zone for being a longtime sponsor. And you can see Equipment Zone next week at the Indianapolis NBM show, and me as well. So, Aaron, speaking of events, what do you have coming up?
Well, as per usual, every Saturday I've been doing the SBS videos, or Small Business Saturdays, and so you can find that over at aaronmontgomery.info/SBS video. And I'm actually right in the middle of a 5-part series, Terry, where we've been breaking down the development of writing a business plan. So I think actually tomorrow is number 4 in the series. And the cool part, Terry, is there's been tons of great interaction between the Saturdays. I've kind of invited people to share with me, and we're trying to build a little community of people that are in the same place. And so that's been going really well, and I'm really excited about that. So I'd love for you to check that out tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time and 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. And having a lot of fun doing that. And then October 17th, I will be out at the SGIA show the day before the show, participating in their Essential Small Business Strategies session. And I'm as I keep telling everybody, I'm the headliner since I'm the last one up that day, talking about marketing your business online. So no, I keep looking at the list of people that are going to be presenting before me, and I'm like, wow, I'm in really good company here. So I think it's only like $30-$40 for that session, and so totally worth it. I would definitely sign up, and I'm just going to kind of go at the end and go, wow, those guys were great. Let's just call it and go home for the day. But, so then Friday, October 19th at 10:30 a.m. in the morning there at SGA, I will be presenting digital marketing, growing your business with social media and email marketing. So that'll be a full hour-long session that I'm totally excited about presenting. It's one of my favorite topics. So that's what I've got going on, Terry. What about you?
Well, Aaron, I'll look forward to seeing you at SGIA as well. and I'll just be walking the floor instead of doing any presentations. But I'm leaving this afternoon for Orlando because tomorrow, September 8th, I'll be doing an introduction to DTG seminar at the ISS show there. That's going to be 10:30 to 12, and then back to the airport for home because I'm going to be home on Sunday and then leave for the Indy show on Monday morning. So I'll be doing a free Epson DTG seminar there on September 12th. Again, that's in the DT or NBM show in Indianapolis. And of course, I'll be exhibiting with Equipment Zone September 13th through 15th. And to wrap up September, I'm going to be doing the DTG all-day seminar in Fort Worth on the 26th, followed by the ISS trade show there September 27th through 29th. And all my upcoming events are on my website, terrycombs.com, under tour dates.
All right, excellent. Well, wanted to also mention that our show producer, Eric Campbell, will be at the NBM show in Indianapolis as part of the NNEP Embroidery and Digitizing Conference, and he'll be teaching on September 13th and 15th. He was actually in the lobby there just a moment ago, but looks like he got disconnected and might be coming back here, Terry. So I don't know if I need to stall here or if I should just go ahead and bring in 5 things. Let's see if looks like he's not back yet. So anything else you want to talk about for 5 minutes, Terry?
Interesting that kind of wrapping the show with technical difficulties for Eric, and I know the guys over at Spectrum had a little bit of technical difficulties to start getting both of them on the show, but hey, it's part of 2 regular guys, and all is well.
Correct. We are 2 regular guys. We're not 2 tech nerd guys. So, all right. Well, we do have the man, the myth, the legend, Eric Campbell, joining us here, and let's see if we can get him on screen. There he is. Eric, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Glad to be back in. I'm sitting here through the show listening, and 2 minutes away from going live, my connection freezes up, everything goes dead, and I had to restart my machine. So yeah. Well, par for the course, folks. It's still 2 regular guys.
Exactly.
Well, before it goes away again, let's get to 5 things. You got a great list here for us, Eric. And here we go. The floor is yours, sir.
Absolutely. After that really inspiring show with the guys from Spectrum, you absolutely have to think that purpose is something important for everybody. So this is 5 reasons to define your company's greater purpose. And this is not just for nonprofits, by the way. So in any case, let's start with number 1. Having that greater purpose, that purpose beyond profit, promotes intrinsic motivation and satisfaction in yourself and your employees. People really do want to be part of something that's bigger than themselves and bigger than just making money and the daily grind. Number 2, standing by a purpose reveals the character of your company. Customers find companies that stand for something, that have a purpose, that do something in the community more trustworthy, and that extends to your product, that extends to everything you do with your brand. Number 3, it humanizes your company. Whether in person or via social media marketing, having your company visible, undertaking things that are related to this greater purpose, it helps people who are aligned with you get more on board with you, but it also just puts a human face on your business because you care, and that's a very human thing to do. It takes you out of that corporate kind of cold persona that we can sometimes get into when all we do is talk about sales and our capabilities as decorators. Number 4, it connects you with your community. Done well, your work toward a greater purpose with local groups and events will put your brand in front of engaged members of the community who care about where they source garments and goods. So that builds valuable top-of-mind awareness with those people who are aligned with you, but it also just gives you those personally rewarding relationships with people in the community that are going to be how you get your word out and how you do more both for your purpose and for your business. And number 5, working toward a purpose is a win-win situation. We all know doing good is its own reward, and we want to do good, but there's no greater feeling than being able to do business, offer quality product to a market that needs it, and do good by the cause you believe in, all while having those people, those in your community, outside of your community, who join up and understand what you're after, helping you to grow and pushing you ahead. There's no greater feeling. So right now, it's a good idea to stop, think about a purpose that your company stands for, something beyond just making money and doing the daily grind, and get out there and promote it and stand by what you believe in.
You know, Eric, it's a great topic, by the way. And, more and more when you hear a company telling their story, because everybody now tells their story, it includes, and this is what we do as a company out there in the community. So I think this is a very timely subject and very well put.
Well, and honestly, everybody talks about purpose marketing. I don't think that it has to be seen as a bad thing. Sometimes people say, they go, oh, well, you're using it to sell things. I'm like, so I'm using it to sell things, and then I'm turning around and investing that back into purpose. These are all good things to do. And beyond that, it's not just marketing. I mean, marketing and convincing people of things aren't dirty words if you're doing it for the right reason. And this is what we're talking about, defining that purpose. So not only that, it's really about company culture. It does make your employees feel like something more when they're not just there to push widgets to the end of the line. And there's nothing better than having that feeling of doing something more, something bigger than just work.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
100% agree, Eric. And as always, thank you for everything that you do for the Two Regular Guys and for spending a little time with us. It's good to see you, sir.
If I can ever get connected, right?
Yeah, that's how we do. That's how we do. All right, Eric. We'll talk to you soon, sir. All right, Terry. Well, we have had a fantastic show today. We've come to the close of it, though. So I want to first, before we get too much further along, remind everybody to go check out Spectrum Designs. We'll have the link in our show notes and whatnot. And thank Patrick and Tim. Tim efforted the entire show to get in with us. And like I said, Terry, I think that it will be important to. I'd love to have Tim come on and we'll find a great topic. I think I'd love to hear some of his take on the organization, the COO role, and hopefully he can share some insight into that with our listeners down the road there, and that'll be a great show for everybody to tune into. So
right, and
those guys.
Yeah, and talk about promotional products as well. And it's funny. We had a great 10-minute conversation with Tim, and he went off right when the show began. But we'll definitely have to have him back. And hey, we also want to thank Eric Campbell, our show producer. And you can find his latest articles at Printware Magazine, and also find everything he's doing at ericcampbell.com, and that's Eric with an H at the end. We'd also like to thank our sponsors, the Specialty Graphic Imaging Association and Equipment Zone. We appreciate your support very much.
Yes, and next week, Terry, we're going to have another great show for you. As you mentioned, we're booked up into December now, so excited about all the guests we have coming up. But next week's show is going to be Joyce Jagger, and I think I'm probably saying it wrong, but we'll get it for sure when we come back. She's going to talk to us about setting up the business structure for an embroidery business. So very knowledgeable young lady, and I can't wait to talk to her next week.
All right. Well, until then, Aaron, he's Aaron Montgomery. I'm Terry Combs, and we are the Two Regular Guys.
Thank you for listening to Two Regular Guys. Check out our website at tworegularguys.com. That's the number 2, regularguys.com. You can also interact with us over at our Facebook page, facebook.com/tworegularguys, or send us a tweet, twitter.com/tworegularguys. And we have a YouTube page. You can find all that from our website, tworegularguys.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to spending some time with you again next week.